slaves and hit those buttons, or I'll send ICE.
Welcome to Feelings Court. You're charged with cupcaking without permission.
Your sentence? 1 week of forced empathy and 12 reaction emojis.
Hold up, grab my soda, cause I told you I'm colder than hell. I ain't buying what you sell, it don't ring my bell. Unless it's got the smell, you know, like grape ape. We ain't talking vapes or the color of drapes. Or a gorilla in a cape is the good shit. Just one hit, you so lit, you fall into a bit, non-bit. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie, obliteration of the carnation with gross castration, skewed citations by your intimations. Get real, young man, there's only one stand. You can't stand a suntan. How you gonna live on the land? Obliteration of the carnation with gross castration in skewed citations by your intimations. I'm a truth in rotation. You're a cheap imitation. Dog said hums, 808s make the ground shake. Cold as the grave, every word's a land quake. You're a flicker in the cipher, I'm the flame that won't fade. Step into the night where the shadows are made. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie. I'm gonna click another hit of this good shit, and I'm already it, so take over, it's been non-bit.
Thank you for joining us at Personality Inventory Mockumentary Productions.
And greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There is a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. And tonight we're looking at WhistlinDiesel. WhistlinDiesel on YouTube here. Let me bring it up. 10.3 million subs. And he's got all kinds of content on here that he does as a content creator. Basically a lot of insane ideas where he's buying things and then destroying them one way or another. That's pretty much his content. Just insane creations as a matter of destruction. So the deal is he bought a exotic car in one state, which allows him to purchase that car through a legal entity on a non-taxing basis, no excise tax. Well, then he shipped it to another state, and the other state is saying that he owes the excise tax as a matter of importing or exporting products. And he's not the manufacturer, he's the buyer, and he bought it in a different state, and then he just moved it from one state to the other. That's not an import per se, but that's what they're trying to get him for. So let's take a look. The first one we have here is clearly established. I think we've done a review on one of his videos before as well, and he has some comments about it. And so we're going to listen to him, and he's pretty much spot on. And like normal, I'm going to make my little interjections here and there.
Texas civil rights attorney, and welcome back to Clearly Established. I wanted to give a quick update on the WhistlinDiesel case. As you may know, he had a gag order hearing yesterday on December 8th. Cody appeared in Williamson County Circuit Court in front of Judge Dina Hood. The state originally wanted a blanket gag. No social media posts, no videos, no discussing the case at all. They argued that his 10 million followers were a threat to fair proceedings. But as we already discussed, the right to a fair trial belongs to the defendant, not to the state. And thankfully, the judge wasn't buying it. She entered a limited gag order, basically saying that Cody can't post any non-public information. He can talk about his own thoughts and feelings of the case if he so chose. The indictment, his arrest, his defense, all fair game. I do think it's reasonable. This is basically what Tennessee law requires under state v. You can restrict non-public discovery materials, but you don't get to silence a defendant from asserting innocence or discussing public information. Now, I know there's...
And that public information is the legalities of the case, which is, does the IRS have the right to tax him? And what they're doing is they're using the taxing agency of the state to assess the tax when the actual IRS taxes were already taken care of through the purchase. And so they're trying to use another internal agency that's already made that determination at a state level for the IRS. And so what they're doing is they're conflating the jurisdiction and trying to put it back in to the IRS hands. It's already made a determination through a state judicial determination of the sale.
Some talk about why should he get to profit off of this? Because everyone else gets to. Everyone talking about this case gets to profit off of it. Look at the local paper, for example, that's trying to sell a subscription to access the article. So I want...
Absolutely. So if the newspaper can report upon it, then so can the defendant. The defendant has, if not an equal right, but a superior right to be able to place his private journal information into the public record. This is the freedom of the press. And in that, like I've said many times, it is inherently more important that the rights of the other people to know is exponentially more important, because they're the ones that are in the eyes of justice. Okay? They're the ones that are actually going to determine the guilt or innocence of the man. And so if you deny them the information, it's a cognitive decline where you're dismissing information that's supposed to go out to the people it needs to get to, so that they can hold the general oversight of these people that are trying to make these false claims.
I'm going to start with Cody's reaction after the hearing.
All right, everybody's asking me how court went today. I had the gag order court today to determine what I could talk about related to my case. And I am very pleased. I feel like we won. I am allowed to talk about my opinions, criticize the government, talk about the facts of the case, what is public knowledge, what I feel about certain things that I know about the case. The only thing they didn't want me talking about was like the not revealed investigative materials in the report about the case that could give me like leverage to let people know before there's a trial. There is a small angle that they want to protect a fair trial, which I understand in a way. I think the judge was very reasonable and kind, and I'm happy with the outcome. But they wanted, it's very interesting, they wanted the gag order before I made that video doing what they didn't like.
So a few takeaways here. First, the system worked. The state overreached, asked for a blanket gag, and the judge said no. That's exactly what's supposed to happen when prosecutors try to...
And like he mentioned just previously, that blanket gag order would also include journalists then, but it doesn't. They never include journalists. The journalists are allowed to report on cases according to specific public data elements. And that's his right just as well. So the only thing they can gag is the privy elements that aren't exposed yet, that would determine the outcome of the trial.
Silence defendants. Second, Cody had serious firepower. David Hudson, a First Amendment professor at Belmont Law School, argued on his behalf. When you're fighting a gag order, having free speech specialist matters. Third, this doesn't end the case. The underlying tax evasion charges are still pending, but Cody can keep making videos, keep telling his side, keep the public informed, and that's a win. Now, what I want to do is show you how the local media is currently covering that.
And the underlying tax assessment, like I said, it's already been assessed upon the purchase. So if they want to impose that excise tax through the state of Tennessee, they have to show how he profited it from the move, how there was a profit gained in that move. And there was no profit gained in the move. He used it as content for his channel, and consequently, like many other things, it was destroyed. So it didn't increase in value. There was no profit in the transfer. So we have to understand that concept. That's the basis of their taxation, is they're saying that it was for a profit.
Williamson County District Attorney's Office had one request for Cody: stop posting, specifically about the criminal charge he's facing. Obviously, they don't have a right to do that. Part of the concern is he has made several social media posts about the case since, and they didn't like it, pontificating on the merits of the case, calling out the investigator by name, hoarding conspiracy theories about the government's justification for bringing charges, and making a slew of attention-grabbing non-sequesters that serve no purpose but to inflame the passion of his followers. Williamson County, that's the First Amendment. He's innocent until proven guilty.
Just like I expressed. See, the imperative part of that First Amendment is the exponential right of content creators' followers to be able to continue following what is generally public already. Just because it's coming from the content creator himself doesn't mean it should be gagged. That's the court of public opinion that is so imperative in trials.
He's permitted to do all of these things. And of course, during the hearing, one of Detweiler's recent videos was played in the courtroom screens, and its title summarized about how he feels about the whole gag order business. They're trying to silence him. So, of course, they posted the video that he posted discussing the state seeking to get the gag order. And as we know, in that video, or at least originally posted in that video, he talked about a confidential investigative report where it talked about what the state agents did in contacting his accountant and telling him to do nothing. They played that video in open court, which also would make that information public.
Bingo. So even though it was clearly opened up initially on the private communication, that doesn't mean it remains private. Once they played it in the court, it places it in the public record. And then I believe yeah, it says there on the screen before you that the watch video on YouTube, it says error 153, video player configuration error. I don't know if that's something that they placed in there so you couldn't get to the video through that link, but he still has that video up. So feel free to, again, go over to WhistlinDiesel and check him out.
So in court, the district attorney's office backed off on the initial version of its request. They acknowledged it was overly restrictive because when they were pushed with case law, pushed with constitutional rights, how could they ask for what they want? How could they keep defending that? And of course, originally they wanted to stop him from commenting on the case or its fact pattern in any fashion, from attempting to monetize his prosecution in any form. Again, if everyone else gets...
Yeah, again, he's going to mention those news journalists. If everybody else gets to make content and make a profit off that content, then he should be able to too. And this goes to the taxation process again, because if he's already gone through the tax venue, then the transfer from one state to another is not an excise taxable event. It's just moving of property from point A to point B. There was no profit in that activity. After it's been moved there, if the activity is profitable, then you might be able to place some kind of tax on it. But you can't tax it before it comes in when it's already been through that process of purchase tax. You know, the excise has already been attended to.
It's to monetize off of it. There's no reason why Cody can't. That's just the reality of the situation, regardless how you feel about him or the case. So after the hearing, the Williamson County judge ruled that she will enter a limited gag order prohibiting Detweiler from posting information that's not public record. So specifically in the video that was played in open court, Detweiler had read from and shared screenshots of a non-public Tennessee Department of Revenue investigative report he had received through Discovery. The judge ordered him to take down the video, but Detweiler said after the hearing he was going to trim parts of the video where he speaks about or displays the investigative report, but he was going to keep the video on YouTube.
And so he edited the video and it remains up there. And he just doesn't mention certain specifics about the private investigative materials.
Understanding is he has since trimmed the video. But again, what's interesting, I don't think he should have had to, because the state was the one that played the video in open court. It's now public.
And here I'm going to make a point that I played that video before he went to court, before he trimmed it. So it's still out there. So their gag order doesn't do any good when the information's already been put out there. So his efforts to go back and edit it are fine for his intent to comply with their order to remove it, but it doesn't effectively remove it because it's still on my channel. Go back and watch my last one. That's where we reviewed it. Think about it, folks.
Public record, it doesn't make sense that he would.
It was already placed into the public. It's very hard to remove it once it's been placed into the public. Today, that public is a blockchain. I guarantee you, I'm not the only one that did a review on that original video.
Now have to trim that video. And it's also been reposted. I know I've posted portions of that video. So as we saw, Detweiler said that the ruling was reasonable. He thought it preserved his freedom of speech. And there's nothing constitutional about preventing public information from being discussed and criticized. Prosecutors had argued that they needed the gag order to ensure his trial. Remember that they don't get a right to fair trial. So how do they frame this? They wanted to ensure that Detweiler's trial was not prejudiced in his favor, that everyone involved in prosecution remained safe, and they didn't want him profiting. He's been selling clothing featuring pictures of his mugshot in his indictment, which he's allowed to do. And the assistant district attorney, his wife, received a text from an unknown number with a picture of the indictment with the message, "The hell is this petty ass bullshit about?" Now, obviously, people shouldn't be making threats or antagonizing anybody at all. You win on the law. But it's interesting they're trying to use this text to somehow silence Detweiler, which I don't think is enough. Prosecutor said the text is not directly connected to Detweiler, but he regardless apologized in court for the text. And then David Hudson, a free speech attorney and professor at Belmont University Law School, served as his co-counsel, delivered a rousing argument on Detweiler's behalf. Hudson said Detweiler's speech about the case against him, which very well may be an unfair prosecution, is inherently a matter of public concern. And he's absolutely right. So Detweiler made an incredibly smart decision in bringing aboard someone that is very versed in the First Amendment to help him advocate and challenge this attempt to get a gag order. So who is David Hudson? He teaches constitutional law. He has co-authored or authored over 40 books, and for much of his career has been focused on First Amendment issues. The guy actually wrote, when you go down on his bio page, which you can find at belmont.edu, he has actually written the encyclopedia of the First Amendment. This is the guy that Detweiler had in his corner to challenge this gag order, and I thought that was incredibly smart of him to do. I'm not a tax expert. I can't talk to the merits of the case, so that's going to end my coverage on this case unless there's some constitutional issue that arises. However, the Supreme Court does allow individuals to pursue a civil rights action in the event that prosecution is deemed retaliatory. And if you can establish objective evidence of that, then probable cause doesn't matter. So even if the charges are warranted, there still is an avenue to seek damages in a civil action, civil lawsuit. Of course, it requires in this instance the prosecution to be terminated in Detweiler's favor. If you want me to operate on that assumption and kind of break down the case law and go through what that kind of case looks like and how do you get that exception to where you can seek a civil rights action even if there's probable cause, leave that down in the comments. Otherwise, that's...
Yeah, if you find anything that would point that out, leave comments down in the section. So let's take a look at the next video and see if it doesn't point that out. This is one from Here's the Deal again, Brian from Here's the Deal, and he's got a new channel or two out, I think. So go check him out. And this one is from Brian from Here's the Deal. It says the CIA fucking loves this sheriff's department dearly. Plot twist. Well, the plot twist you're going to find out is this is Cody Detweiler's sheriff's department. The very people that came and served that warrant. So let's see what their connection is with the CIA. You guys recognize this guy, don't you? Let's check into it.
Hold on to your hats for this one. This is Sean Ryan, former U.S. Navy SEAL, former CIA contractor. And from what I understand, once a CIA contractor, always a CIA contractor.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like, you will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like, we had entire training courses.
The two classes of people who do the most amount of harm to Americans are the political class and the law enforcement class. The politicians write the rules or the laws, and we know that all laws are just the opinions of politicians backed by the threat of force. And these laws serve two purposes. Number one, they extract more money from the American tax cattle with every written law, and also with every written law, we lose more of our freedom. So we lose our money and our freedom through
everyone. And that's what they're trying to do with WhistlinDiesel. They're trying to tax him out of his freedom. And it's important to stand up against that stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're using a lawful legal loophole. That's why they're created. Remember Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Well, you use those loopholes because they're good for you. That's why you didn't legislate them out. They're there for a reason. Imagine that. Imagine one of the regular people using them for the very reason that they're there for.
Written law. The second thing is the law enforcement class puts the teeth on these laws that the political class writes. If the law enforcement class chose to not follow orders, chose to serve and protect and defend the freedoms outlined in the Constitution of the United States, specifically the Bill of Rights, and specifically the Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your persons, houses, papers, and effects, then it wouldn't matter what the political class did to us. But as it stands, the political class and the law enforcement class act as heat-seeking missiles against our wealth and against our freedom. And it's vital to understand that that's what's going on in America, or we will never make changes. Now, please keep that in mind as we discuss Sean Ryan. In this video right here, he addresses a mistake that he made during a recent interview with Tucker Carlson, and he clarifies that he incorrectly stated that the Williamson County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department was being paid less than the 75th percentile of other sheriff's departments in Tennessee. We're going to watch this video.
Oh, so maybe they're having a paycheck problem and they want to raise revenue. Huh. Like he said, taxation and freedom. In order for them to apply their services and get a good paycheck, it's got to be a revenue collection. And that folks, is the main reason for martial law. It is for the revenue collection by police.
That he released a day ago that has almost 1 million views. We're going to make some comments along the way, but you got to stick with it because there's a plot twist at the end. Check this out.
You know, it always sucks when you make a mistake, when you said something you shouldn't have, when you hurt somebody unintentionally, or I don't know, said something that wasn't true. And then comes a point in time where, and we've all been there, right? There comes a point in time where you have to make a decision. And the decision is whether you are going to man the fuck up and admit your mistakes, or if you are going to be a little bitch and cower away and fucking hide from your mistakes and hope that everybody forgets. And today,
absolutely. Absolutely. Manning up and admitting your mistakes. See, this is the accountability and transparency that we're talking about, that we have to maintain the oversight of, because if we don't, then that transparency and accountability goes away. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that the IRS or the state revenue collectors of Tennessee are wanting to infringe upon a man's freedoms by overtaxation without representation. He's already paid the excise taxes that are required through the purchase. And then after the purchase, he transferred the property from one state to another. You cannot then, like double jeopardy, try to tax it again for the same purpose when it wasn't the same, not of like kind. It's already changed its purpose.
today is one of those humbling days for me where I fucked up. I said some shit that wasn't true. And now I have to make the decision on whether I'm going to own this shit or I'm going to cower away like a little bitch. And
now he's building this up to make it sound like it is this massive deal when it's really not. He just says, yeah, this Williamson County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department, they're being paid less than the 75th percentile of all sheriffs in the state of Tennessee. This is horrible. You would think the way he's building this up that he's going to apologize for living most of his adult life as a contracted mercenary for the military industrial complex and for the CIA. But wait, there's more ensuing nonsense.
And I'm not going to cower away because I fucked up and I said some shit that wasn't true. And what am I getting at? I'm getting at my latest Tucker Carlson interview. There was a point in that interview where I talked about Williamson County Sheriff's Department, my sheriff's department, where I live. These guys serve me and I love them dearly.
These guys serve me and I love them dearly. Stay tuned because at the end, you're going to see they don't only not serve you, they're serving the interests of the Z.I.O. international banking cartel, and they don't even deserve to be paid $1, let alone your former objection to them being paid less than the 75th percentile of all sheriffs.
And I had a lunch.
And remember, that's we have to understand. We did a video not long ago about the overtime pay too. I don't know if that would be entirely accurate, and I certainly wouldn't believe it, and I certainly wouldn't care because of the overtime issue, because that would be the circumvention around those low paychecks, and you know that's just one of those things that instills people like this that expect high paychecks and that end up shorted, so they try to, you know, marginalize it by maximizing their overtime as much as possible. And that in itself is fraud, doing nothing for something.
with my sheriff, Jeff Hughes, who I also love. I think he's a badass. I think he runs the sheriff's department extremely well. And I think he does a great job overall. We had a chat over lunch and there was some misunderstandings. And I put out that the Williamson County Sheriff's Department was being paid less than the 75th percentile out of all sheriff's departments in the state of Tennessee. And I fucked up because that was wrong. They were not being paid what they should have been paid. And the county commissioners, who I just blasted in the Tucker Carlson episode, actually did the right thing and voted to give them a raise.
And again, that's where I question whether they were actually being paid what they should have been paid. Because even though they may not be getting paid what everybody else is getting paid, again, when you look at it in retrospect, what if everybody else that's getting paid is exorbitant pay and you didn't bother looking at that to find out that all that pay they're claiming and getting is actually based on exorbitant overtime? So then you find out that this department is actually getting paid what they're worth and crying about it because they're not logging on the extra overtime or something. See, something in there just doesn't make logical sense. And that's why it's so important to have that community oversight of all of that accounting. We have to be able to determine whether these guys are cheating the clock, cheating the people, cheating the system, which generally happens across the board. You know, they're cheating everybody because that's what they are.
Late this summer, last summer. And so I need to correct the record and say, I'm sorry. I misunderstood what the sheriff was telling me, and I should have verified the facts. That won't happen again.
And again, I think if you verify the facts, you'll find out that I'm actually more accurate than this guy, that somewhere along the line, they might be bloating those other paychecks that they're comparing them to, and that they're actually getting paid what they're worth, if not more already, and just crying because they're not getting as much as all the others.
It's me setting the record straight. Thank you for being who you are. And I am sorry that I did that.
Thank God CIA asset Sean Ryan manned up and owned his shit regarding the Williamson County Sheriff's Department. And before we talk about some of the players or deputies of the Williamson County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department and the egregious thing they just recently did, listen to what Sean Ryan says about him again.
Williamson County Sheriff's Department, my sheriff's department, where I live. These guys serve me and I love them dearly. And I had a lunch with my sheriff, Jeff Hughes, who I also love. I think he's a badass. I think he runs the sheriff's department extremely well.
So he loves the sheriff, who's a badass. He loves the Williamson County Sheriff's Department. And he says that they protect and serve him. Guess what, Sean? You're a freaking liar. No, they don't. Because the Williamson County Sheriff's Department and their deputies and the sheriff himself are too busy doing the bidding of the Tennessee Department of Revenue. And
Tennessee Department of Revenue, the tax department, that's going to restrict this man's freedoms. They've already kidnapped him. They put handcuffs on him for a debt. Okay, that's debtor's prison on the face of what we're seeing here. If you claim a man owes you a debt, you don't go collect the man and throw him in jail. That's kidnapping and making merchandise out of him. Extortion. We're not going to let you out unless you pay our fictional debt. See, that's the reality of it. They went far beyond some corruptive tax scheme and committed criminal acts. That's why I say it's not corruption, it's criminal.
And putting their hands all over an innocent man in violation of his Fourth Amendment rights, when the man, who in this case is Cody Detweiler from WhistlinDiesel, didn't harm anybody, threaten to harm anybody, damage property, or steal property. Let's watch the protectors and servants of the Williamson County, Tennessee Sheriff's Department act like armed agent thugs for the Tennessee tax collectors. Oh, while they trample unalienable rights. You're going to want to pay attention to this one, Sean.
We have everything on camera. I'll play the video here so you guys can be caught up and see what happened.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I want. What's this say? I don't know. How's everything watching? Is this a joke? No, at least you guys are agents with the say that's one of the things.
No. What's the paper?
How is that consistent with protecting and serving the unalienable rights of the Williamson County Sheriff's Department constituents? What exactly is it that causes a Sean Ryan to back the blue and claim that they are the protectors and servants of rights? Don't perverted, unconstitutional actions speak way louder than words? Let's just go ahead and keep going.
Is that the warrant?
Yeah. No. Well, he has a warrant. This is a criminal summons. Okay. Out of circuit court.
What's this for?
This is for tax.
So Again, it's a civil activity. Okay. It's a commercial activity. It's known as a taxable event. And they are placating through the Tennessee Revenue Department that this man owes a corporate tax, a commercial tax from a civil action. And they have converted that civil action to a criminal action and issued a summons. And this guy says the other guy has a warrant. You see the problem? See, they're supposed to have a criminal warrant, and they don't. They say they do, but he's going to read off a criminal summons, which extends from a civil event. Again, like I said, that's a debtor's prison situation. They're kidnapping this man for a debt and holding his body as a form of extortion. They extorted $20,000 bond out of this guy.
Okay.
So the Williamson County Sheriff's Department, and you can see his patch right there, are acting as the armed highwaymen for the State Department of Revenue. How are they any different from the Nazi Gestapo? In what way are they protecting a person's right to be secure in his persons, houses, papers, and effects, essentially safe on his own property from the tax man? How is it that Sean Ryan can love such a corrupt criminal gang so dearly?
My sheriff's department, where I live, these guys serve me and I love them dearly.
Do these gang members deserve to be loved so dearly for initiating unconstitutional actions like this?
What's the paper? Is that the warrant?
Yeah. No. Well, he has a warrant. This is a criminal summons.
Okay.
Out of circuit court.
What is this for?
This is for tax evasion.
Okay.
Can I see that?
Who are you?
CR of the company.
Is that what this whole thing is for?
Give him his copy if he wants to give it to this guy. That's cool. 401.
My apologies. Didn't realize I was muted there. I was talking about the pieces of paper there. See, the one guy says he's got a criminal summons. The other guy says he's got the warrant. Well, I don't care about the summons. I want to see the warrant, because what you've done here is you've taken a civil event, a taxable event, and converted it to a criminal act. That's debtor's prison. Okay. You basically took this man and took him to jail and held his body under extortion for $20,000 bond. Okay. That's the criminal event. It's not corruption. Again, it's criminal.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's what it's about.
The sheriff's department has this for the company, WhistlinDiesel, whatever your company is called, but the estate agents have warrants for you individually.
Oh, so the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's
same stuff.
Oh,
It's for you, the individual, and the LLC.
okay. The cuffs are tightened up. Are you unlocking those or tightening them up?
I'm putting them where they want tighten more.
It's for you as an individual and the LLC. How do you hold an LLC criminally guilty or criminally charged? You can't. It's a civil event.
Is it a joke? Are you
This is legitimate. I just paid like $1 to IRS. So.
This is state, not federal.
Oh, just say.
State, yes.
This is county, and it's from Williams County. That's what we're serving. They're with the state. They're serving something completely different. We're just
Wait, what's the complete?
We're just the armed agents of the state. We're just doing what we're told. We're just following orders. We don't write the laws. We just enforce them. Where have we heard this before? Remember the Nuremberg trials? Just following orders didn't wash with them and shouldn't wash with these guys. But Sean loves.
And that's multiple jurisdictions, right? The county says they have a summons because that's where the county court is. Okay, that's where they want him to appear, is the county court. Okay, and then you got the state because it's the Department of Revenue for the state of Tennessee. They're the ones that supposedly have a warrant saying it's criminal. Fucking pathetic.
Has no problem with them.
No, it's the same.
Or
tax,
they're both tax evasion.
Yeah, it's tax evasion. It's for you personally and for the company.
Okay.
The Department of Revenue.
Not federal.
No, it's all state. The Tennessee Department of Revenue got indictments against you as an individual and the LLC.
Not sure what this is for, but they say
Indictments for you as an individual and the LLC. I want to see the fucking grand jury indictment then. Not a sheet of information. A grand jury indictment. I want to know the people that gathered up and had evidence presented to them without me present for that grand jury indictment. You understand you have the right to face your accusers, even in a grand jury indictment.
it's tax evasion. I just paid like dollars to IRS in the last 2 years, so we've made regular payments. So I'm not sure what this is about, so we'll see what it's for.
Mr. Wilder, what this is it's state, not federal. Okay. So it has nothing to do with the IRS. You have a bond that was set by the judge at $20,000. Okay?
Have they tried contacting me about this? Because I haven't.
They contacted us today and asked us to come out here and assist them with serving warrants.
So this is for 20.
Sheriff's office.
So this is for 20 grand.
No, the bond is 20 grand.
Oh, I see.
I don't know what the amount is.
You can be out in the next few hours, just according to how quick the jail can get you processed.
These guys serve me.
Yeah. It just depends on how quick you serve. These guys serve you. Yeah, they're serving you all right. But it's going to cost him $20,000 to get out as quick as he can. That's the extortion. What if I don't have $20,000 for the bond? Well, then I guess you just got to sit in jail.
And I love them dearly.
So Sean loves the Tennessee Gestapo dearly. He's got no problem with them. Except there's one small problem with Sean not having a problem. It's that one of the biggest problems in America today falls on two classes of people, the political class and the law enforcement class, who acts as the big muscle men and the mafia gang members for the state and against the people. And Sean may be okay with this, but I'm not. How about you? And here's the kicker to this whole thing. One day, the Williamson County Sheriff's Department is going to come for Sean too, and I bet he'll continue to back the blue because he's a bitch.
To man the fuck up and admit your mistakes, or if you are going to be a little bitch and cower away and fucking hide from your mistakes and hope that everybody forgets.
Don't worry, Sean. Not everybody's going to forget the tyranny that you endorse. If you want to see the full context of what.
So, yeah, I don't agree that the guy's going to be back in the blue until it happens to him. I think he's, a pretty prominent figure in that community, and that they know him very well, that they know his background, and that they're going to use that for their benefit. And it would almost seem that, somehow maybe he might have something to do with this Whistling-Dixie thing. I don't know. I can't say. But it's just awful coincidental that somebody of WhistlinDiesel, Cody Detweiler's personality and content creation that he's been doing for a number of years and drawing large attention. Why somebody would want to shut that down? Why they would want to go after something like that? He's a seemingly self-made man. I don't know where he gets his money, but all that money certainly allows him to do a lot of things. And with all that money allowing him to do all these things, I think he's got a rather large track record of doing things in good faith and fair dealings. And that if something like this happens, why would you go after him so strongly? Why would you try to put him in jail knowing that he's got a very large track record that says otherwise? Always paying the taxes appropriately according to the law. And simply because he happens to use a legal loophole, goodness gracious, he ended up not having to pay an excise tax on a car that he purchased in one state, a particular state that allows it. And then once that purchase was made and he transferred it to another state, they tried to excise it again. That's double jeopardy. The same concept. Shouldn't be playing those games. And I think it's a good thing that he's standing up for this stuff and exposing those kind of things, particularly the legal loopholes and how they work. And again, don't believe me, don't believe him, don't believe the neighbor, don't believe the government, for crying out loud. Don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. It's important so that you have your own comprehension and discernment about this stuff. And you guys know me. I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That part's on you. And on the way out the door, I hope you enjoy.
Hold up, grab my soda, cause I told you I'm colder than hell. I ain't buying what you sell, it don't ring my bell. Unless it's got the smell, you know, like grape pape. We ain't talking vapes or the color of drapes. Or a gorilla in a cape is the good shit. Just one hit, you so lit, you fall into a bit, non-bit. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie, obliteration of the carnation with gross castration, skewed citations by your intimations. Get real, young man, there's only one stand. You can't stand a suntan, how you gonna live on the land? Obliteration of the carnation with gross castration in skewed citations by your intimations. I'm a truth in rotation, you're a cheap imitation. Dark said hums, 808s make the ground shake. Cold as the grave, every word's a land quake. You're a flicker in a cipher, I'm the flame that won't fade. Step into the night where the shadows are made. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie. I'm gonna click another hit of this good shit, and I'm already it, so take over, it's been non-big.
Thank you for joining us at Personality Inventory Mockumentary Production.